Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Manage Your Money During Coronavirus webinar. This has been brought to you in conjunction with the NOLA Public Libraries. My name is Alexander Bigby. I'm the Executive Director of Flight, a New Orleans-based nonprofit that helps communities around the city get access to free financial education resources. At the moment, we've moved everything on to webinars. We normally do a lot of workshops. These webinars take place every Tuesday at 11 a.m. and Thursday at 4 p.m., focusing on pretty much every aspect of personal financial literacy. So have a look at our website, www.flightcoaching.com/webinars, if you want to see the full range. They'll be going on until the end of May for the time being, although that may continue. Today there's a presentation. The format will be a presentation on budgeting by Phoebe Brown from Hope Credit Union. It should last around 25-35 minutes. And then there'll be a Q&A session after that that'll probably go on for another 20 minutes or so. If you have any questions at all during the presentation, please just type them in the chat box, and then we'll get to them after the presentation is over. You can also add any comments if there's any issues with sound, anything like that. Just please put it in the comments box and we'll try and fix that as we go along. If you would like a copy of the presentation from today, please just put your email address, send it to me privately, and I can send that out to you after this is done. Also, all of the videos from the session, a recording of the video and the PDF from the session, the presentation will be available on our website at the website I just mentioned. I'm going to also put that in the chat box too, so you can see it. That should all be available within 24 hours. So yeah, without further ado, I'll introduce Phoebe Brown, our speaker for today. She's going to be talking about budgeting during coronavirus. So I'll hand it over now. Hey, Phoebe.
First, can you hear me, Alex?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. I'm going to switch over.
Okay.
So your presentation is going to be shared from my screen. Just let me know whenever you want me to move to the next slide.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's once again a pleasure to come before you virtually. So I'm just going to get used to all of this virtual way of doing things as we proceed with this pandemic. First of all, to introduce you to myself, my name is Phoebe Brown, and I'm the Financial Inclusion Officer at Hope Credit Union. And today we're going to be talking about budgeting and money management, learning to live your best life with a plan. Next slide, Bigby. In our next slide, you'll see that I just give you just a little brief information about Hope Credit Union. Hope Credit Union just recently celebrated their 25th year anniversary. Hope Credit Union is actually located in 5 states, which is Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee. So we've been doing a lot of work in the communities, and we, of course, love to help educate individuals on financial education. We have been working very hard with the SBA PPP loan application process, where we've been helping business owners actually secure that payroll protection loan to help individuals. So please feel free to reach out to Hope to possibly become a member, or if you would like further information. Next slide. So on today, money management, you see that is to really strengthen communities, to build assets, improve lives in distress neighborhoods in the Deep South. And that's what we intend to do with the help of Flight and other partners that we partner with, to actually bring related products and services to communities that is, first of all, feasible and not very costly. So we try to do that in the Deep South, and we like to picture ourselves around the Delta because that's where those 5 states are. Next slide. So on today, we're going to really define budgeting. Budgeting gives you control, budgeting improves your life, and budgeting, well, it can help you to finance things, but really it's a safety net. So that's what we're going to talk about in this session on today. Next slide. When you look at budgeting, I always like to pose the question to individuals to ask, well, how many of you actually have a written budget? Now, of course, it's rhetorical. It's a rhetorical question because we're actually in virtual settings, so I don't want everybody to shout out, but I want you to think about that. If you actually have a written budget plan, how well are you following it? Or maybe you don't have a budget plan, and why don't you have one? Those are things I'd like to pose to you to really have you to do some soul searching within. Because when you look at the attendance on today, you came here for a purpose. And I'm pretty sure that purpose is just what the title says, budgeting and money management. If you have one, session will help you to enhance what you're doing. If you don't have one, we hope that this session will actually help you to start one, because really this is the best time to begin. Maybe when you're on a downward spiral, or maybe you're just kind of don't feeling your way through this whole pandemic. So we're going to really look at budgeting and define it and see exactly what it takes to do this. Next slide. Defining budget is simply this. Budget is an estimate of income and expenditures, and it's did over a set time period. So budgeting is not to restrain you, but it is to actually help you to put things in motion, to actually have your income as well as your expense, have a picture of it, and to know where to stop your money from going. A plan coordinating resources and expenditures, well, that's Webster's definition. Also, it is an estimation of revenue and expenses over a specific future period of time, and is usually compiled and relevant to what you're doing. Now, those are all great definitions, but the definition that I like to use, it's a plan. We talked about goal setting in our class earlier this week, saying it's a plan. Well, this is the plan in motion when you look at defining a budget. So yes, it takes income as well as expenditures, and it helps you to paint a picture as to what you now want your expense to look like. Next slide. So why start a budget today? I posed that question to myself and asked, okay, well, right now, individuals are either unemployed, or maybe they're working, or maybe they're not working, or maybe they have unemployment coming in, or maybe they're still maybe working reduced hours. But the question is, why start a budget today? Well, these bullet points gives you those reasons. Budgeting gives you control over your finances and your spending. Once you put something in place, you now have the power to either change it or keep down the path that you're on. Budgets also help you become organized. Being organized in your finances is key, because once you're organized, you know where your paperwork is, you know what your due dates are, you know exactly how much you have to use or not use. Budgeting will help you to achieve those goals that you're starting to set. Those of you that attended our last class, it talked about achieving goals, setting them and achieving them. Well, budgets will help you to be able to do that. Budgets will also help you build new habits, good habits. It will help you to be able to prioritize those things and really stay the course, because now you have something you're working for and working toward. Budgets help ensure that you will always have enough money. We use always, but under a situation like this, we know that the money can still be funny and you can still run out. But it helps give you a little bit of cushion to maybe make it to the next step. So to be able to take care of the things that you need, and it'll also take care of the things that are important to you, because what may be important to me may not necessarily be important to you. So we don't want to say that, oh, you can't put this in your budget, or you can't spend money in this area, because it has to make sense to you. Also, budgets help you work your way out of debt and also avoid debt. Now, How does that work? Well, because you become more conscious of your money. You become more aware of where you're spending your money and what you're spending it on. It acts as a roadmap to where your finances are going. Also, budgets help reduce stress. It transforms money into a tool that will help you not worry so much about the due dates because you'll be ahead of the game. You'll know your plan. You'll start working toward downsizing the amount of debt load and the amount of financing that you're doing. Also, budgets help improve your credit life. So on next week, we'll be talking about credit. But today, as you see, budgets can be very, very powerful if you really, really open your mind and your heart into actually doing them and putting your willpower behind it. Next slide. Here I give you a little picture. Which would you rather be? You controlling your money or your money controlling you? I don't know about you, but I like to be the man to my left where I'm controlling my money. I don't want my money to control me. So what do we mean by that? It simply means that sometimes we get ourselves into a situation and into a hole where our money has to go with the mistakes or the things that we did in our past, where we can't control where it's going. But you can work your way through that. You just have to have the keys to do it. Next step, slide. So we all have things that we need and want, plus bills, and more bills. Especially during this time. The economy may not be open, but there are still bills that we have to pay. Light bill, water bill, gas bill, gasoline costs for our cars. Who knows? The sky is the limit when it comes to bills. But budgets can help you to be able to prioritize those bills and your finances. Next slide. So, understand something. I live in a real world with real situations. When you're trying to do a budget, the question is, well, where do I start? I don't have any money. Well, I get that a lot. But guess what? Even if you don't have any money, that is the best time to start. It doesn't matter the situation. It doesn't matter whether we're in a pandemic or we're not. Starting is going to be hard. Why? Because number one, for some people, it's new. Number two, it will be challenging. But if you put power behind it and try these steps, you can do it. First, set realistic goals. If you were not here for the goal setting workshop, I encourage you to reach out to Big B and get that workshop and look over it. Because number two tells you you're going to identify your income and your expenses. Now, here's the key. In order to do a budget, you got to know what's coming in versus what's out. This is the area I like to say you have to collect the data. So I encourage individuals, number one, get receipts for everything that you purchase. Because the receipt is going to tell you exactly what you spent your money on, how much it was to the penny, and the date that you did it. The reason why those things are important is because you can't stop your money from going somewhere if you have words. Receipts tell you the truth about what you spent your money on. Sure, people ask me, well, can I use a bank statement? Yes, you can use a bank statement. However, it's not foolproof because the bank statement just tells you the date, the amount, and where you spent your money. It doesn't tell you what you spent your money on. So you got to identify your income as well as expenses. Number three, you separate your needs and your wants. When you do a budget, you're going to have things that are going to be needs and you're going to have things that are wants. Some needs, of course, is going to be your shelter. It's going to be food. Now, clothing does fall into that category, but it doesn't mean that, hey, I'm bored, I'm online shopping, and I just want a new outfit. If you went through Katrina, you know what the need of clothes is, because if you left here with only 3 sets of clothing and you were gone for over a year, you knew you needed clothes, right? So that's what we mean, that when things become a need, it can also be a want sometimes. But when you focus on the need of it, That's when it becomes important. Now, number 4, you want to design your budget. Let me be clear. There are plenty of different websites and tools out there for budgeting. I actually like putting pen to paper, but there are great sites that offer great templates and budgets that you can use. One a lot of people like to use is Mint, and Mint is a great resource, but there's tons out there. You just have to research them, or you can reach out, I'm pretty sure, to Bixby, but I know you can reach out to me and I can help you with that. After you've did all of that, you now have to put your plan into action. So that is when you got to collect those receipts. You got to sit down, and we got plenty of time right now. So that's why this is the best time to do it. You'll take time, you'll sit down, take your receipts. You would put all your gas receipts together, all of your maybe eating out receipts, all of your grocery receipts. You're going to separate all of that out, and then you're going to fill in the spaces, because those numbers will not lie. It will tell you exactly what you're spending your money on. It'll show you exactly where your money is. And there's that old saying, seeing is believing. Now, a lot of us, we don't want to see. But in order to do a concrete, solid budget, you have to see what your habits are, because it takes 21 days to build a habit. So it's going to take to break it. And then number 5, look straight ahead. Stop focusing on the past. We all make mistakes. We all have did things that we're not proud of. We all have seen our money come, and we've all seen it go. Stop looking at the past, and now let's look straight ahead to work on our new and improved you. So the little quote on the side, I tell you, a dream written down with a date, it becomes a goal. So goal setting is in the beginning, but when you get to the next steps, it becomes a plan backed by action, and that will then help make your dreams come true. Next slide. So when we look at a budget, it's going to improve your quality of life. I've already stated that you're not going to stress. Your quality of life is going to change. When the bill comes, you're not going to stress over it. Why? Because you're already going to have a plan in place to take care of whatever that bill is. You'll be more confident with talking to your creditors. You'll be more confident in dealing with those things in the future, because you will have built up that confidence, because that's what a budget does. It helps give you that strength, and it'll change your quality of life. It will change the way you think about money, plus it will change the way you use your money. Next slide. Quality of life improves your living conditions. Now, here's what it does. We've heard all about how minorities are being affected the most because of different things. Well, healthcare is an issue. Maybe the jobs are not paying as much, but that is true. But there are other individuals that also experience those things. But one, how to take control of your finances, it's going to improve your quality of life. Your family can move toward major goals. You may have a goal in wanting to purchase a home. You may have a goal that you want to go back to school. Whatever it may be, your family or just you can move forward accomplishing those goals. Saving efforts become possible instead of impossible. Imagine if you can save $1 a day, just $1. In a 30-day month, you've saved $30. If it's February, you've saved 28. Maybe it's a month with 31 days. You've saved 31. Last I checked, 30, 31, and 28 is better than 0. So when you add it all up together, that's putting you in a pretty good sweet spot. You become motivated to do the work. Once you start seeing yourself accomplish your goals and start seeing your money build, and you start reducing those stress levels, you're going to be motivated to do the work. You're going to be motivated to see, okay, what else can I cut back on? What else can I maybe reduce my spending on? Trust me, it works. You start to value money. You're going to see a penny, you will. Or you're going to say, you're going to think twice before you make that purchase. Because I always say, take the exhale moment before you make purchases and sleep on it. If you see something that you really feel that you have to have and you know it's an impulse buy, step back, take a breath, ask yourself some questions and say, well, do I really need this today? Can I sleep on it? Is this really going to impact my life, and how am I going to pay for it? A lot of times you'll talk yourself out of that purchase that, hey, I don't need this right now. I have better things that I can do with my money. It'll help you to pay off debt. You're going to be more conscious to see the moneymaker of creditors, which is their interest and their fees. And you'll be able to take a step back and say, you know something? I'm going to start working toward paying these bills and paying them off and carry as much debt load. Once you do those things, then you can plan vacations, or you can actually take one and enjoy it and not worry about how am I going to pay for it, because it'll already be paid before you go. Also, you'll be able to buy that car, that home that you've always wanted. Now, it might not be that luxury BMW 750 like but it'll be a car that you like. I know that we can dream big, but we have to accomplish those goals with reason. So yes, you can buy that car, that home. Budgets will help improve your quality of life. Next slide. Financing to buy and to repay on time. Budgets will help you to do that. Now you can focus on securing sound financial products. You can also understand the process of money management, and paying things will make your life crystal clear. You'll realize that you don't want to carry the debt load that you have. You won't make those spur of the moment mistakes where, hey, I'm mad, I'm bored, I'm going to spend some money. Or, I can treat myself. Nothing's wrong with treating yourself, but you have to do it in a proper way of doing it. You don't have to overspend and finance everything. Budgets will help you to be able to live and live comfortably. You will be able to borrow when need for big ticket items, but most of the time you'll be able to save for day-to-day living as well as for emergencies. Next slide. So to develop your plan is this. You review your goals. Planning for life events and large purchases. But the key here is choose a format that best works for you, written or electronic. Now, a budget, you can only do a budget several ways. It either needs to be a weekly budget, a bi-weekly budget, a semi-monthly budget, which is like the 1st and the 15th and the 30th, or a monthly budget. Don't go past that. If you go past a month, you're really not doing a budget. Why? Because bills normally come pretty regular. You get paid pretty regular if you're working. So if you wait and do a budget 3 months from now, how are you going to collect that data? It's going to feel like work for you when you sit down and start working on putting in the numbers. Set targets for spending to help create savings for life events. Now, once you set targets for paying off debt, having your regular monthly bills paid, you get things like large purchases, because a budget is going to include everything you spend your money on. So if your favorite food item is hamburgers and you want to eat a hamburger a week, your budget will include that hamburger a week that you buy, plus your regular expenditures. Budgets are not just about bills. Budgets are about everything you spend money on in your life. So yes, rent and mortgages, car notes, insurance, cell phone, but also your groceries, your personal items, your exciting things like entertainment, your subscriptions from Netflix or magazines. It includes Christmas. It includes doctor appointments or copays. It includes every single thing you spend your money on. So you have to make sure that whatever format you choose, that that budget actually has all those things itemized and not just placed under the word miscellaneous. Because if you put it under miscellaneous and your budget comes up in the negative, if you sit down with me, the first area I'm going to cut is miscellaneous, because it's just that, it's miscellaneous. So you want to itemize everything that you're spending your money on, because that's going to help eliminate unnecessary expense. Also, you want to fill in the budget with savings, life expense, and purchases. Now, it's important. If I have you to sit and do a budget and you have no savings built in, it's going to feel just like work, and you're going to get burned out, and you're going to say, you know, Ms. Brown, I can't do this. This is just not working for me. But it can, because you're going to have to put your willpower behind it. Next slide. You're going to see, I was trying my best to try to get you a budget that I normally use, but unfortunately I could not upload it for some reason. But this is just kind of a little sample, a little snippet of a budget. You'll see that you have to my far left, you'll have your expense. And it breaks down with your income first and then all your expenditures. Then you'll see the budget. Now that area will stay blank first, because those receipts I've talked about that you need to get, collecting the data, that's where those figures are going to go under actual. That is what you've actually spent your money on. When you get to the bottom of your budget, it's going to total up what you actually spent minus your income. That's going to tell you whether you're operating in the negative or you're operating in the positive. That means if you're in the positive, you're in a surplus. If you're in the negative, you're in a deficit. I always like to say surplus, sure situation, deficit, defeated, right? That's how you feel. So then when you go to your budget column is what you intend to do. This is the amount I am setting aside to say that I'm going to spend on this particular item. Like for me, gasoline, before the pandemic, I was always on the go with my car. So I would allot approximately $50 a week for gas. Now, when I pull up to the gas pump, I might not be putting $50 in. I might pull up to the pump and I only put $25 in because it filled my car up. So the question is, what do I do with the other $25? I leave it there. I leave it right there, and I build up a savings just for fuel where I never have to touch it. So when the gas goes up, I have reserve that I'm pulling from. And it works. And it works like that with all of your bills, but you have to have discipline in order to do it. So once you have your actual and then you set your budget, you will see what the difference is in what you're doing. Now, this has to be a continual document. So you have to breathe life into it. You have to work it on a regular. That's why you have to choose whether you're doing a weekly budget, bi-weekly budget, semi-monthly budget, or a monthly budget. Because you have to go back at that same time and see if you reached your budgeted amount, or did you exceed it, or were you underneath it. And but your budget line now starts building. It can remain the same because you've already allotted the amount to spend on that. If your actual to go over the budgeted amount, you have to sit down and evaluate yourself to see, okay, what's causing this? Am I going in the store and I'm putting too much items in the basket? Or is somebody coming along with me putting too much items in the basket? If that's the case, you may want to leave them at home. You will see that budgets will contain fixed expenses like your insurances, your rent, or your house payments, but there will be some things that will be variable. So those things you will have to do on average. Once you sit down and calculate your receipts, when you go to your budgeted area, you want to round to the whole dollar. want to make sure that you have budgeted to cover the expense, but not to the penny. You got to leave room for increase. So we know gas goes up and down. It may not take $50 to fill my car up, but on an average, that might be an expense if I have a lot of classes and workshops and appointments I have to go to. So you will have to kind of try to do things on an estimation per what you've calculated in your actual expense as well. Next slide. So, thought to remember about a budget. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. As you just that little snippet of a budget I provided you today, it shows you that it will contain, once again, everything you spend money on. Everything. I don't care if it's a stick of gum. You got to include it because that's your money. And you have to realize that you want to take control of it and you want it to go where you want it to go. So be sure to plan because no one ever plans to fail. But if you do fail to plan, eventually the bottom will fall out and you will fail. So remember, plan today. Next slide. And once you're able to do that, you will start living your best life. You will have control of your finances. Because I want you to think real quickly about this. If the government, the state, the jobs we work on, the restaurants, as well as retail shopping that we do, if all of those entities actually have budgets, the question is, why don't you? It can give you just as much control as it does all those big to give you direction as to where your money is going to go. All I ask is that you give it a try. I've been following a budget for a mighty long time now. I've started when I would hit rock bottom, so I'm human. I'm not a superhero. I've been there. And once I pulled myself up by the bootstraps, I needed to learn the keys to take me forward and hopefully never send me back unless life actually happens in an unexpected way like this pandemic. You can definitely live your best life if you only give it a shot. That's what agencies like Flight is there for, as well as myself, that we can assist you with starting to manage funds and putting together a proper budget. Next slide. So if you have any questions, we can take those questions, or if you have any comments, I'm open to those. I believe the next slide has my contact information. If anyone is willing to reach out to me or need to reach out to me further, this is my contact information. The best way during this pandemic is to reach me by email, and that's my email address at the bottom. I am located at our Elysian Fields office once we open back up, but right now I'm working remotely where I have access to emails. So if there are any questions, I'm willing to answer those or any comments.
Thanks, Phoebe. I just wanted to just say a huge thank you again for giving us your time and your expertise. I always say this, but I love hearing you talk at our workshops and the webinars. It's a real pleasure. We do have one question to kick it off. Can we go over what a minimum budget will be for a modest life in New Orleans?
A minimum budget. That's kind of a broad question because when we say minimum, we in New Orleans, we have various individuals. We have individuals that live with family or friends, or we have individuals that actually live on their own. So they're paying rent. They're paying, they might not be a mortgage, but they may be paying a utility, maybe not both. So when we talk about a minimal budget, it really depends on those things. What are those expenses the individual has? We know that here things can be a little costly in the rent area as well as utilities. But things with utilities that you can look into, if it's a light bill, you can look into seeing if you actually qualify for billing to help get you over that hump. Or if you're living with family and you're required to give them some, be sure that you're covering your shelter, because I always tell people you can live in a dark house, but you don't want to live on a dark street corner. So it's really going to depend on those utilities, but then the minimal things, as far as outside expense, that things can run hefty, of course, here in an eating city like New Orleans. So you have to be careful there. So it's really kind of a broad question. If there's something specific that caters to you and you want to open it up to give me an example, if that didn't answer your question, I'm willing to go a little deeper with that. But everyone has a different type of makeup. Like I had a client that sat before me, and they really didn't have a lot that they spent money on because everything was covered in their property. They didn't have utilities. They just had to pay rent. They just had to take care of eating. They didn't have a car. They were on the bus line. And they were making a little over minimum wage, but not very much. And they didn't think they had enough to do a budget, but they actually did. They just had some other hobbies that they were doing where their money was kind of leaving them quickly. So everyone has to look at the man to determine their situation. In that way, Bigby or myself can give you guidance on a budget that works for someone.
Yeah, and if you would like either Phoebe or myself to reach out to you after this, please just send your email address in the chat box, but privately. Or you can copy down Phoebe's from the slides. And again, the slides will be available on our website. So please check that out. I have a question for me. Is there any,
Sure.
Is there any kind of method that you think is better for writing down a budget? Should I use an Excel spreadsheet? Should I use an app? What is there an ideal method, or is it up to you?
It's really up to the individual. Like I said, I put pen to paper. The budget that I created a number of years ago when I was consumer credit counseling services, I still utilize that budget because it actually breaks down into fixed expenses, variable expenses, and anticipated expenses, those things that are yet to come. However, there are plenty of different apps out there that you can use that have those spreadsheets. So really it depends on the individual. I'm not real techie, but some people are. So apps work best for them to where they can either tie their expenses into the budget and it kind of populates itself. Or if you're one that likes to sit down at a computer at night, you can just do a simple Excel spreadsheet. And the budget I actually use, I also have Excel where it calculates it's for you, as well as another budget I have. So if individuals want that, we can definitely share it. Those were the ones I were having trouble uploading to share.
Okay, great. Well, looks like we don't have any further questions, which means that you're very comprehensive in your talk. Next week it is credit and all things around credit. Oh, there we go. We got another question here. As far as setting a budget, how much do you recommend that we save out of our paycheck? Good question.
Okay, so savings, the actual minimal amount of savings that is recommended is 10% of your paycheck. Now, I always say you got to start somewhere. So if you are not used to saving anything right now, you can start there. Now, 10% isn't much. If you make 100, that's $10. Make 200, that's $20. And if you see that you can put that away and you have put it away and you're not going back and touching it, then increase. Because the golden rule for savings is that you should have 3 to 6 months of your actual expense in the bank at all times, meaning your living expense. To homeowner, you're supposed to have 3 to 6 month mortgage note in the bank at all times. So as you see, it can be quite costly or quite strenuous to save. So, but you got to start somewhere, because once you see yourself really starting to save and start building, you'll be able to say, oh, this doesn't look too bad. My savings account has $100. Oh, now it has 1,000. Now you will become so motivated to save once you get that skill in that, sky's the limit. You may even be able to move to saving half your paycheck because you'll be able to handle your bills and not take on more debt. So I would say starting, if you're not used to saving, try the 10% per pay period and then gradually increase. Or in our goal setting workshop, I showed them the 52-week money challenge. You can also do that because at the end of that 52 weeks, you will save over $1,300. So just start somewhere, even if it's $1 a day, at least you've begun.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend, if anybody didn't catch the session on Tuesday, it's on the website. I would definitely recommend, if you want a really deep dive into setting goals. It's a great presentation and definitely a good complement to what we've been talking about today. I think that's it for questions today. So yeah, as I said, next Tuesday, 11 a.m., Phoebe will be with us again for her last webinar, which I'm very sad to see her go because she's so great, talking about all things credit. Thank you, everybody who joined today. I know it's a beautiful sunny day out there, and you'd probably rather be outside than talking about personal finance, but here we are. So big thank you to you. Thanks for the questions, and hopefully I'll see as many of you as possible on Tuesday next week. Take care.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Phoebe. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And inviting me. I've enjoyed it.
My pleasure. It's always a pleasure, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a lovely weekend.
Okay, you do the same. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Yes, indeed. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.